Hi, I'm Jason from Malott Consulting, and today we're going to try and go through using curl for one-time API calls. What are we going to try and cover? What is curl, why we use curl, when to use curl, and how to use curl. Well, that pretty much sums up what curl is. It's a command line tool for transferring data with URLs. Why use curl? It's quick, it's available, and normally you get explicit instructions on how to use it. So quick, basically it's just a bit of text. You can edit it in your text editor and then just paste it into a command line. It's available. It's built into Mac and Linux, and I think it's now also in Windows 10 and 11. I'm not a Windows user, and I haven't been able to test that yet. At the end of this, we'll also show alternative ways of achieving the same thing using PowerShell. Explicit instructions. By that I mean that the API documentation normally includes exactly how to use curl with all the commands. So you can literally just copy and paste, and then away you go. When to use curl? Well, you can use it whenever you like, but what I like using it for can be fundamentally boiled down to two things. One is activating webhooks. Something like tapes, application level webhooks need to be activated. So when the first time you send any data with them, it will send a code, and then you need to send that code back into it for it to become valid and active. We'll go through that later. The next thing is retrieving specific data once. So there are occasions where you need like a client ID, or you might want your workspace ID or a folder ID or something along those lines, where you're actually going to then use that ID in an automation in the long term. So curl can be a really good way to just quickly grab that information. And there's an example of how you can obtain your client list and IDs from Toggle. As mentioned earlier, if you are on Windows and you don't have access to curl, then you do have the option of using PowerShell. The curl command is relatively easy to convert into an evoke REST method PowerShell. But if you don't want to do it manually, then one option is just to paste the curl command into your AI of choice, and say the majority of the time the AI will spit out an invoke REST method version of it that will work for you. The same as anything with AI, it doesn't always work. I tested a few in PowerShell for Mac and they seem to work fairly well. And now what we're going to do is we will run through an example of using curl to activate a webhook within tape. So we're going to try and go through this activating of an application level webhook from start to finish. So we've got two apps within our workspace here. We've got a base and an into. Nothing exciting. It's just like something to to go from. So the first thing that we're going to do is, if we go into and we have a quick look at the automations, that we've got this copy of inbound here. So if we copy this webhook address and then we jump into base, we go into developer, and we can delete that one. Let's stop it from getting confusing. So on the create record, we're going to paste in that webhook. So it's now inactive. If we create a new item here, that should hopefully have sent into here, which it has. and it's asking to verify, and we've got a code and a hook. If we have a quick look at the developer documentation, then we can see that what we need to do is send this back. So if we copy that and put it over here, we can then take this information here and replace our code with it. And we can take the hook and copy that and paste that into here, and we're ready to go. So we can now copy the whole of that, paste it into here, hit return, and if we now go back into our developer, we can see that it's active. If we now create a new one, save that, and now if we jump into, we can see that we've got new test 2 that's been created in here, because it's now given us the correct information, which we can then feed back in a request to get the details.